What is going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. And as you can tell by today's title, we're going to be going over how I changed my life in just 5 short years. I'm going to be showing you guys from what I consider my absolute rock bottom till now, which is definitely the best point I've ever been in my life. Obviously, I have different levels to hit, but definitely am doing the best to this point in my life. The reason why I'm not going to go into a full-blown life story, like dating back from when I was a kid, is because I want to save that video for a different time. I feel like that video will be necessary once I hit a certain point in my life. So for now, I do want to go over the most transformative period of my life, and that's from 2020 to 2025. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So way back in 2020, I had just moved to my own apartment. It was definitely not because I was making a bunch of money. I was pretty much living off stimulus checks, and I was selling shoes on the side. Like, that was kind of my side hustle. I wasn't really that profitable, but I was doing it. It made me feel good, you know, trying to do something with entrepreneurship and all that good stuff. Now, my ex-girlfriend was splitting the rent with me at the time. We were, had our own apartment. It was a really nice apartment from back in my hometown. So in order for you guys to understand why 2020 was my rock bottom, I do need to give you guys some context. So from 2018 to 2020, I was in a long-term relationship with a girl. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that. And in that long-term relationship, things got extremely, toxic, as most young relationships do. So, we were always on and off. There was, cheating involved and all that good stuff, and obviously arguing and, things like that. But I was extremely comfortable in that relationship. I was hanging around the wrong people. So I was drinking a lot. I was eating like crap. I was eating Chick-fil-A every day, like desserts every night, eating just fried foods and so on and so forth. It was really starting to take a toll, and I just wasn't doing anything. I'd play like basketball on occasion, and I played in like a men's flag football league, but I was not in the gym. Anytime I would start the gym, I was just inconsistent, extremely inconsistent. Now, those years following up to 2020, I was, just kind of a degenerate. I was hanging out with the wrong people, like I said, drinking, smoking, all that good stuff, vaping, so on and so forth. Honestly, I was a feather in the wind. I was going out to bars all the time. I was playing video games like crazy. I was playing like Modern Warfare and stuff. I was a feather blowing in the wind. I wanted to do something with entrepreneurship, but I had zero discipline with anything that I did. And I barely graduated high school. And I skipped school more times than pretty much anyone you would ever know. And so, I never lived a structured life. That's just some context to give you guys leading up to 2020. So 2020 happens. I'm in a 3-year relationship. We were just extremely unhappy, but I was really unhappy with myself because I wasn't a provider. I wasn't, in good shape. I was letting myself go. At this point, I was like probably 215, 220. I'm 6'1", and I just don't hold weight well. So when I'm overweight, I don't hold it well. I hold it in my face. I hold it, all over my love handles, my chest, everything like that. I was overweight, playing video games. I had just bought a PS5, I think, at that time, building these characters in these virtual worlds, but like not building, my character, not building me. I knew that something had to change. So the way 2020 played out, me and her stayed together for a little while longer. Things were not the same. She would go stay at friend's house and all this other stuff. I was trying to be a better boyfriend. If I'm just being completely truthful with you guys, my options were extremely slim. I had let myself go. I was unconfident, like the worst I've ever felt in my life. And I've always been a pretty good looking guy and always in really good shape and played sports my whole life. So like being in this new body that I was in after being in a relationship for a long time and just letting myself go, feeling unconfident. I mean, I'm talking about like, I shaved my head too. So I was buzz cut. I didn't have like nice facial hair or anything like that. Like, dude, I looked bad, but I just felt bad. I looked bad. It was horrible. And so I basically, I told her, like, I like broke up with her. It was like around Christmas time and stuff. And I had bought her a bunch of gifts and I spent a bunch of money and stuff like that. And then we ended up breaking up. We didn't see each other for a long time. And then there was something that happened that made me realize that the relationship was over forever. And I saw on her best friend's Snapchat story, her on top of another guy's lap, making out with another guy in Miami. And I'll never forget it. I was picking up a pizza. Terrible eating habits back then. I was picking up a pizza. I was going to watch football at my brother's house. And in the back of my head, I figured, I was like, we're going to get back together. Like, this always happens. You know what I mean? it's not even for the love, just for the comfortability aspect. Like of course I wanted to get back together because it was comfortable. I was extremely comfortable with her. And so I didn't want to start over, and I was scared to start over because I didn't think I could get another girl. I really didn't. I didn't think so. It was like the most unconfident I have ever been. And I saw that, and I had heard rumors of her, cheating, things like that, and I couldn't really like ever pinpoint it and see for sure. But when I saw it with my own eyes, that's when I knew as a man, at least I had this inside of me. I knew for a fact I could never take her back. That was it. That was the last straw. That was it, because I was embarrassed all over social media. Everyone who knew us knew that we were together. Like for her friend to do that, it's actually like, thank God that I at least had the gumption to just never go back to that, and I never did. But I will tell you this right now. That was the darkest, most depressing days of my life. It was like 2 weeks. The only thing I remember was like darkness. That's it. Like it was in the middle of winter, like right after Christmas and all that stuff, like January in Georgia. It was freezing, dark out all the time, like just cloudy and stuff like that. I had this apartment that I did not know how I was going to pay the bills, because we split the bills, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was so depressed. I went over to my brother's house. I had a whole pizza and I didn't take a bite of one piece. My brother literally thought that I had like pneumonia, or I was like sick with the flu or something. I didn't talk the whole time, which me and my brother are extremely close. We just watched the game. I sat there like blank face, just like this. Just like couldn't feel anything. Like I couldn't feel anything. And I went home that night. I was just like done. Like I was done. And it was like that for 2 weeks. It was so bad that my mom came and stayed with me. I love my mom to death. She's such a blessing. But she came and she literally slept on my couch for like days on end, just to make sure that I was all right. And I'm really grateful for that. So, to make a long story short, it was like really depressing. Like it's just a depressing time period. It was a plethora of things. It wasn't just that, but it was just me feeling unconfident. I felt like I had nowhere else to go. I was fully at rock bottom. Fully at rock bottom. The way that I got over her was I started hanging out with friends, hanging out with the wrong girls for sure. Having girls come over to my apartment. Like I said, the wrong girls. Basically doing drugs that made me happy. And I was drinking again. Yeah, I had fully hit rock bottom. Now, I will say, hanging out with friends and stuff like that did make me feel better. Like if I have to just play devil's advocate, it did make me feel better. But I knew that it was just a sheet over the things that I was really avoiding. It was like putting like a thin blanket over it. And so that's what I did for a while. And I ended up kind of seeing, so is someone that I've known for a long time. My girlfriend is someone that I've known for a really long time. But we ended up, just talking a lot more when I like broke up with my ex, and it was just one thing kind of led to another, and me and her started vibing extremely, extremely hard. And I think it was because we had a friendship first, and we kind of built it on that I never really saw her in that light, except I remember one night we talked and we got really deep, and I was like, whoa, I think I really like her. I even told one of my friends at the time, I think I really like her. And so we started to hang out a lot more, and that helped me a lot. Was obviously like another girl. The best way to get over a girl is to get on top of another one. That's something that I've heard, and I don't know how morally correct it is, but it definitely is semi-true. If I have to say, it's semi-true. I do want to get through the story. I just wanted to at least give you guys the premise of what, how this all plays out. So, we're me and her start hanging out, dating and stuff like that. And I start noticing that like, all right, like this is kind of a good relationship. Like I'm having fun with this girl and stuff like that, but still my eating habits are bad. I'm drinking and I'm still smoking weed and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, listen, I got to get my stuff together. And so me and her start talking, and I'm like, listen, like I really want to be held more accountable. Like if I was to ever take this relationship serious, like I want to know that we can grow and get better. I don't want to be stuck in the same rut that I'm in. I was telling her I wanted to start getting into the gym and eating better, and if she'd start cooking at my house and stuff like that. We weren't living with each other or anything, but we damn near were. We were with each other all the time, either at her apartment or mine. But she was really pivotal in keeping me accountable. I remember I wanted to skip the gym one day, and she was like, "Hey, you promised me and you promised yourself that you were going to start going. I think that you should go. I think you should just take some pre-workout and go." Of course I didn't see many gains, but I knew that I needed to start working out consistently. I knew that I needed to. So that's what I did. And so, time passes on. I actually got a job. I was dating her. I think at this point we ended up moving in with each other. We moved extremely fast. So, I'm notorious for moving in with chicks, but whatever. So we moved in together. I got a job. She was working. We actually stayed in that apartment. I was working a warehouse job, basically stacking boxes and sorting things and things like that. And, I was really thankful for the opportunity and for the job, but I was pretty miserable, if I'm being honest. I just felt like I was wasting all of my potential. I was doing well at that job, as well as you can. I don't know how hard it is, but I was getting a lot of praise from the owners of the company and stuff like that. But I just knew that I was meant for more. I knew that I was meant for more. So I would listen to podcasts all day long. I remember on my beats, I would literally have them on all day, listening to podcasts and starting to listen to these guys like David Goggins and even Theo Vaughn, for instance. He would drop some motivational stuff. And I would listen to these people that were super successful, and I start thinking, I'm well, these people are really no different than me. Their stories are pretty similar to the way I grew up, and they feel the same emotions as I do. They just know how to channel it better, and they channel it through these factors like David Goggins, the gym and running and discipline and stuff like that. And so I'm listening to these people, and I'm so there is a hope for me, right? I did some research on side hustles, and there was an opportunity that was presented to me to own to start a inflatable business. And so bounce houses, literally for kids' birthdays and stuff like that, which is extremely crazy, but it's a big business. And so we started doing some research into that, and I started investing some money into it, and my mom helped me out a lot in investing some money. And basically me and my brother started a bounce house business. And so I was still working that job, and then on the weekends I would set up inflatables, and the weather started getting a little bit warmer. This is well into 2021 now, so the weather starts getting a little bit warmer and things like that. I'm lifting still, not as consistently, but I would say 3 to 4 days a week. I was lifting at the gym, waking up extremely early to get to work. And then on the weekends, I started setting up bounce houses, and that was my side hustle. I was you know what? I want to go all in on this business. So essentially, I had a master plan. My lease was about to be up at that apartment, and I was told my girlfriend, I was let's leave this apartment. Let's go move in with my mom so we don't have to pay rent or anything like that. I'm going to quit this job, and I'm going to go all in on this business. And so that's what I did. I left that apartment, which had a bunch of bad energy in it from past relationships, friendships, things like that, just the stuff that I did in that house. I just wanted to get out of it, wanted a fresh start. So I moved in with my mom, and I went all in on my bounce house business. And so it started growing really fast. At first, we would literally rent U-Haul trucks essentially, but from Home Depot. And we'd rent these trucks, and we'd go show up to these jobs and these birthdays in the truck with we had at the time three inflatables, and basically we would buy leads from this guy who didn't want to do them, so we would have to travel, and he'd live far away, and we would have to travel an hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours to go do a job. Literally. So we that's what we did all of spring and leading into summer, but we were making pretty good money. So we were making good enough money to where we started buying more inventory, doing more jobs. Then we eventually bought a truck and a trailer, and this was starting to become a full-blown business, right? In the summer, we started kicking ass. We did I think it was the month of either May or June, we did a $15,000 month. Now, that's not profit. That's split between me and my brother. We reinvested a lot into the business, stuff like that, but we had a $15,000 month. That was by far the most money that I had ever made in business. Not even close, all right? So, I mean, I probably like took home like $5,000 that month maybe, but I was on top of the world because I made that money. It was from my business. I was taking these calls, closing people that were warm inbound leads, but whatever. So the business started rolling, and I was living like high. We had just bought a bunch of inflatables. I think we had at one point 12 inflatables, and they're expensive. They're extremely expensive to buy. And we had just I remember we bought 3 brand new ones. I was on vacation in Fort Myers, Florida. It was like during my birthday, and my brother had to go to Tennessee to go buy these 3 inflatables, but we ended up dropping like $10K on these inflatables, and we were rolling, man. We got back and it was just like balls to the wall. We even hired help. We would hire people, and people came and started helping us and stuff, and we were growing really fast, really rapidly. Then of course, everything goes to shit. So my habits were extremely terrible. I will say I found a good gym that I was going to a lot, definitely a lot more often than I had in the past, like ever. I was starting to get a little bit more dialed on my diet and stuff like that. I was still not even close to where I wanted to be as far as like weight and size and muscle mass and stuff like that. And I was eating like brownies, and I think I was eating protein brownies and ice cream. So that's how like I tricked my brain into thinking that I was like eating protein, so it's all good. But yeah, I was doing well financially, and I was in the gym and stuff, but I was still drinking and things like that. I definitely wasn't doing any drugs at this time or anything. I fully put that kind of stuff down, and but I was still drinking. So summer we went really strong, and then we got really burnt out, and it was kind of a plethora of things just kind of stacking up. We got really burnt out. I remember we signed up with these marketing people, which is pretty crazy that I do that now, but we signed up with these people that were doing like Google leads and Facebook leads and stuff, and they had burned us pretty bad. We had not gotten any results. Like, people, just the phones were dead silent. I don't know what happened from May and June to like July and August, which is supposed to be like the big money making months. It had kind of died. I think it was August and September, and those are still money making months, and things had just died off for us. And that was pretty tragic at that time. It was really tragic. So, that was a big thing for us. The marketing stuff, we had gotten burnt out. It felt like a low-end job, if I'm just being honest. Like, we were out there literally setting up inflatables. Like, it would rain on us. There was mud. There was dog poop and piss in these yards. And it was kind of a dirty job, honestly. And I started to resent it. So did my brother. And so, and the business just started like kind of collapsing, without any marketing. And then the winter seasons hit, and that's when this business completely dies. So the business starts dying, and it was a super seasonal. So it was just a plethora of things. Like I said, it was just a lot of things accumulating. And so we basically came to the consensus that we were going to sell everything off, and that's what we did. I think, without saying too much information, I think we ended up selling everything, all of our equipment, the truck, the trailer, everything. We ended up selling it for like $20,000. So we basically got like $10,000 each. And at this time, this is leading into 2022, there was a bald kickboxer by the name of Andrew Tate, who had just started emerging. And he was talking about entrepreneurship. He was talking about what color is your Bugatti. He was talking about internet money. He was talking about getting in good shape and all these things. And he really changed my life in a lot of ways. Watching his videos and listening to his long format stuff, he changed my life extremely. And so I started getting like really interested in e-com and building a brand and stuff like that. And so that's what I did. I ended up taking that $10,000 and I put it into a business, and I started buying clothes from these manufacturers overseas. I was selling basically clothes to people, and I had started building a brand, and the business started doing pretty good. Basically the niche that I was in, it was a really niche, like specific. It was women's clothing, and it was for like festivals and raves. That's what I was doing. I was selling those kinds of clothes because me and my girlfriend would go from time to time to festivals and raves. And so my business brain, I was like, these girls spend tons of money on clothes. I'm gonna sell these clothes to these girls and stuff. And so that's what I did. I invested all my money into this brand, and it was really good for a long time. I was leveraging social media and organic content on TikTok and Instagram. We even built it to like, I think it was like 3,000 followers at one point. We were getting sales. I was fulfilling orders and stuff. I had the physical product, so I wasn't like drop shipping. I had girls that were modeling. I did photo shoots. I did like the whole nine. Like I built this thing. I know it sounds stupid because you should go where the money's at, not where your heart's at. But my heart just wasn't in it. Like I don't know. It kind of felt like, I don't know how to explain it. I've always been one of those guys that cares how he makes money, and I like to make money in kind of an ethical way. And it's just clothes, but some of the clothes were more, grotesque, and they weren't that, modest. Let me put it that way. I mean, I had these girls in some bad clothes, and not to like have any moral high ground or anything like that, but it's just more so like I didn't want to keep adding to this degeneracy and the rave scene and stuff like that, and my heart just was not in it. And so I didn't even sell all the stuff. Like I honestly just kind of started giving stuff away and things like that. I think I did end up selling like the rest of the inventory, and essentially just took my money and didn't reinvest it into anything except I think I had like $3,000 left, and then I invested that money into flipping cars. So like I said, I was just going from thing to thing. I never stayed with anything because I was just never disciplined. But I started really taking a liking to the gym, and the gym started becoming more prevalent in my life, and I really wasn't doing anything. I was still playing video games, still drinking on occasion. I just wasn't really doing anything with my life, so I was just like finding peace in the gym. I remember going at like 3 a.m. because it was a 24-hour gym, and I would just go work out for like 2 hours at a time, like just like get lost in the weights and lifting and stuff like that. I was flipping cars here and there, making some good money doing that. And so that's kind of what I was doing at this point in time. And to round out 2022, it was like, I think it was like September 2022, I realized I had to stop playing video games because I have an addictive personality, and I was just addicted to these video games. I was playing these, building like fantasy teams and stuff like that on these games like Madden and 2K and UFC and all this other stuff. And I was like, dude, I gotta stop like playing video games. And I sold my PS5, never looked back. To this day, I've never owned another PlayStation ever again. So I got rid of that distraction. I started getting really consistent in the gym. Like I started taking creatine. Like I had never taken supplements like that. I started getting really strict on my diet, like eating more steaks and things like that. To round out 2022, that's kind of how I finished 2022. And then 2023 came along. And so in 2023, I was still flipping cars, not really knowing, what I wanted to do with my life, but I started to really like just have a thirst to be on my own again. So I moved out of my mom's house. I got my own apartment in a pretty nice area of town. And my apartment was like $2,200 a month for a 1-bedroom. And so in 2023, that's what it was actually. So when I was moving out of my mom's house, I was getting my life insurance license. And so, dude, the stories just never end. I was getting my life insurance license, and I got my life insurance license. And then I had just moved into this new apartment. I was doing pretty good. I had some money saved from flipping cars. I was still kind of doing like flipping cars as well. And then I was door dashing on the side, to keep money coming in. My girlfriend had a job too. And so we were doing pretty good. We were doing better than we had been. And so I remember I had just gotten my life insurance license. It was probably May because it was near my birthday. And I just had all this like hope again, like, whoa, like I had been presented this opportunity to do life insurance, and this guy was telling me how much money I can make and stuff like that. And so basically, I felt good again about life. And so I started doing these ride-alongs with this guy who got me into life insurance. And I paid all this money. I took all this time to do life insurance, and I'm going on these ride-alongs with him, and we're knocking these doors and going to meet with like clients and stuff like that. And I realized that I would rather do anything else but life insurance. life insurance, like we were going to these people's houses that were like on oxygen and all this other stuff, and it just felt horrible trying to sell to these people, even if it is something that helps them, like life insurance, which like a lot of policies don't end up paying out when people die, which is like super unfortunate. And I used to read those statistics, but it just felt wrong. It felt so wrong. And seeing these people and stuff, it was like a sickest feeling ever. I don't even know how to explain it. I would come home, and I know my girlfriend remembers this. I would like just be depressed, like mega depressed. And I would have a sheet of papers of addresses that I would have to go through around town to go talk to these people and knock on these doors. And these people their door had been knocked on by other agents like 15 plus times. And so by the time I got to their door, they hated me with all their heart. But, I will say that helped with my sales skills for sure, knocking on doors and getting cussed out by people and trying to relax situations. But I made a couple $1,000 doing life insurance, but my heart it just was not in it. I'm a guy who's big on, morality and caring about the things that I'm doing and how I'm making money and if it's ethical or not, so I didn't want to do it anymore. So I stopped doing it. And that really set me back. I feel like I was starting over from square one again. I had like a chunk of savings that I was holding on, that I had from like flipping cars and stuff, but it just wasn't enough. I was door dashing again on the side, and I felt just completely and utterly lost. Again, I was thinking to myself, I need a reset. This was leading up to July. And so for my buddy Sam's birthday, we actually went to Miami in July of 2023. Now, this trip was extremely pivotal for me because in this trip, I realized that my dream life is out there, and there was people currently living that dream life that I wanted. And they were no different than me. That trip really opened my eyes. And I was drinking on that trip and stuff like that. We went to like Club Space. We did a bunch of different stuff. We kind of went degen. And I'm glad I did. I got out of my system because July 31st, 2023, I remember that was the last day I ever drank. And it was in Miami. But again, I feel like I hit rock bottom again, because I feel like there's people out there doing what I want to be doing, and I'm not doing those things. So I got back to Georgia. I promised myself I was going to stop drinking, and I did. So that was the last sip of alcohol I've taken to this date was July 31st, 2023. And I got back. I talked to someone who's extremely close to me that owns a very successful business, and I asked him for a job. And I asked him, I'll do whatever, just please give me the chance to do sales at some point. And so on August 1st, this is how fast everything moved. On August 1st, I started my new position. And I was living at my apartment. I started my new position at this, it was a warehouse job in a place where I was doing manual labor in a place with no AC. It was extremely hot during the summertime. It was not great, but I had hope again, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to really stick with this time. I'm, to this point, been listening to Tate a bunch. I'm getting into self-help books, like reading these really great books like Atomic Habits and by James Clear and all these great books. And I felt like, this is it. This is my chance to really make something of myself. I'm going to make people proud. I'm going to make myself proud. And most of all, I'm going to make God proud, because I've tried so many different things and I just, nothing's worked out to this point. So I'm going to give this a real try, and I'm going to do this. And so that's what I did. I started that job August 1st, 2023, literally right after I got back from Miami. I think I was talking to him while I was in Miami, and I told him, I was like, hey, like, when I get back, I want to start this job and I want to do this, because I had no job. I was like traveling and spending a bunch of money, and I had no job. So I was eating into my savings. So I got back. I went from being a guy who would wake up at 1 p.m. and go to sleep at 4 a.m. to a guy that started taking his fitness super serious, his job super serious, and I was waking up at 3:45 every single day in the morning. 3:45 in the morning, waking up, going to work out at Crunch Fitness. I'll never forget it. I started working out at Crunch Fitness. I would finish my workout by like 5:45. I would finish my workout by like 5:30 or something. I'd go home, I'd shower really quick because it was right by my house, and then I'd I would get out of the door basically. And I would be at work by 7. My job was like 45 minutes to an hour away. I would get to my job by 7, and then I would work from 7 to 5 every single day in the scorching sun, working with my hands, doing manual labor. And that's what I did for 6 months. I did it from August all the way to January. And in the wintertime, that place was cold. In the summertime, it was really hot. And so that's what I did for 6 months. I got into extremely great shape. I think I was weighing 190 pounds at that time. No, I think I was still probably 195, but I was like a little bit more muscled up. I was pretty buff. I was feeling myself. And again, I had so much free time that I would just listen to these audio books and listen to these, like The Art of the Deal, and then listen to these long format podcasts of Tate and all this stuff. I would just absorb all this content, and I was manipulating myself into believing that I could do anything, absolutely anything. And so the 6 months had passed by. I was promised at 6 months that I would be considered for a sales position, and he held true to his promise. My boss, and the person that I'm extremely close with, he held through to his promise, which I am still grateful to this day that he did. He held through to his promise, and I started my sales position. So I went from working in the back and working with my hands to having my own office, coming into work, feeling like the man, still waking up extremely early, and then but working, in a physical office and start making more money and making these commission checks. And it was really crazy. So again, I had another plan. I told my girlfriend, I said, listen, we were offered basically to move in with her parents, and that's what we did. They have like a full apartment downstairs in their house, in their basement. And so this was at the start of January 1st, 2024. And so we're living in her parents' basement. I'm working every day. We're saving, and thank God for her parents. They let us just save all of our money. We didn't have to pay any rent or anything like that. And I was making $20 an hour, working 7 to 5, so like 40 plus hours a week, and making fat commissions as well, selling the products that I was selling. So, I started bringing in each week somewhere around like $2,500 a week. Not $2,500. I would say actually closer to like $2,000. And I started feeling myself. And then in January, I started a course. I did actually Iman Gadzhi's course to learn marketing. And so I was studying this course on my breakfast and lunch breaks. I would just do the course. I was taking calls. I was selling things. I was getting better at sales. I was just I have the whole journal still, all my notes of that course, Agency Accelerator. That's what I was taking. And basically, I did it. It was a 3-month crash course, and I learned everything there was to know about marketing. And so I think it came around like March or April. I had the bright idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make something of myself, and I think that I should get out of my hometown. I think that this is a thing that's been holding me back for a long time, and a bullet that I really want to face head on, essentially. And so that's what I said. I told myself that I was going to move August of 2024. I was going to stack a bunch of money, and I was going to, start my marketing agency, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't even say it. And on January 1st, one of my New Year's resolutions was to go completely carnivore, and that's what I did, and no carb for a long time, which eventually turned into a animal-based diet. Actually is what I'm on still currently. I still have not eaten carbs since December 30th of 2023. So I've stuck to all this discipline and all this stuff, and I'm getting in the best shape of my life. I'm feeling confident as ever. I'm making the most money I've ever made in my life. I'm working a job, but I'm doing extremely well in life. I'm coming up with these plans. I'm writing down on my vision board. I'm just doing things. I'm doing things for the first time in my life. Basically, my best friend Sam, he has a background in marketing, and so he wanted to do all the fulfillment while I did all the sales. And so that's what we did. We did all of that, and that's what we stuck to, and we partnered up and we started doing it. And so we started cold calling people and signing clients and getting meetings on the books and getting rejected and getting no's and stuff like that. But we were moving with intent. And basically I got him on board to move to Tampa as well. So we now both had the plan, like, yo, let's move in August. And so we stacked our money. I got in the best shape of my life. I mean, I'm talking about ripped and swole at the same time, like just the absolute best shape of my life. I'm thriving fully. Things are just going really good. I bought my first camera. I started recording. I didn't post anything, but I started recording myself because I wanted to start YouTube. And I just started feeling really good about life again. Really good about life again. And so August came of August 1st, 2024, 1 year after I started that job. And basically 1 year after I stopped drinking, I moved to my dream state, which is Florida. I don't know if Tampa is necessarily my dream city, but at that time it was. And so I moved to my dream city. I'm in this beautiful high rise now. This is pretty much where we're currently at now. The business and everything, all my endeavors, I'm making about $10,000 a month. I'm still currently in the best shape of my life. I actually just launched my fitness mentorship and kind of just really, I don't even want to say fitness mentorship because it sounds cliche, but more so like life mentorship and helping people, to achieve their highest self just like I did. And, things are going great for me. I'm in an extremely, healthy relationship. I haven't had a sip of alcohol in almost 2 years. I have trips to Europe planned coming up in 3 weeks. I live in a crazy nice high-rise apartment. I'm getting my dream car coming this year. My business is thriving. Everything in my life is thriving. Everything is thriving. And I'll say it's due to a couple things. It's due to my relationship with God, and not because I feel like I am scared to go to hell, and so I'm getting closer with God. I'm longing for a relationship with God because business is hard, and being on the self-growth journey is extremely hard, and the only thing that really gets me through is God and Jesus Christ himself. And then the gym changed my life completely. And my discipline, if you realize throughout the whole story, my discipline in my life got better consistently as I stayed disciplined in the gym and as I started taking the gym more seriously. And I don't think that that's a coincidence by any means. And then lastly was just the belief in myself, and the belief in making my plan and being diligent and sticking to that plan, and just believing that I could achieve absolutely anything that I want to do. And I am currently living my dream life that I wanted in 2023 and that I achieved in 2024. And now that I know that I can hit these heights and as quickly as I did, I am shooting for things much greater. And I'm not even going to say the things that I'm shooting for. I just want to prove it to you guys. I know what I want. I have a detailed plan because I plan everything out. But you guys are just going to have to see the evolution of this thing. But just know that the content, everything's just going to get better. Everything's going to get better. Things are going to get much better. I'm going to keep investing in myself, in my personal brand. I'm going to keep investing in my business. And this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. Realistically, I've been locked in for maybe 2 years now. And I have a lifetime to go, a complete lifetime to go. But if you stuck around for this long, I really appreciate it. I know that this was an extremely long video. This is basically my life and how I completely changed my life from 2020 to 2025, where I'm at currently now in April of 2025. If I just can leave you off with one thing, it's this. Keep God in your corner. Believe that you can do absolutely anything because you can. Cut those bad things out of your life, the things that are harming you. Porn, that's another thing that I completely cut out. Porn, the addictions, drinking, toxic relationships, toxic friends, getting away from all those people. Be intent and have the right intention in your life. And anything that you want is absolutely out there for the taking. I absolutely love each and every one of you. I'm so grateful that you guys tune in and watch me. And until next time, I'll see you boys. Peace.